What up, y'all? How you guys doing? You know, it's been one hell of a day, and I've been feeling the frequencies in my mind and feeling them out here in the landscape of the city. And I find myself here at the park, and I feel better. So I wanted to share something a little bit more lighthearted and something a little bit more less involved with what's been in my head. So on that note, you know, I've seen a lot of people discuss genetic predispositions. You know, we might even hear the classic things. You know, people with broader shoulders, or broader shoulder clavicles, are going to tend to have like maybe a more narrow or shorter calf insertion point, whereas someone maybe with more narrow shoulders might tend. You know, there's always going to be variation, but they would tend to have larger calves. For example, someone like a Branch Warren in the IFBB Pro. But I wanted to take a little bit of a different stance. These are just personal observations I've noted over the years. And I just wanted to share with you guys a couple of my observations, and maybe you guys can share some of your own. Starting just with, like, I'm going to just go across every type of ethnicity. Even though we're all just one big melting pot, I'm just going to throw them all under the bus. You know, right out the gate, I notice Korean dudes, Koreans have calves. I've said that to my lady and my good friend for a long time. Koreans have calves, bottom line. They tend to have good, thick lower bodies. But that is their strong point. I notice as a whole, kind of the Asian culture tends to have shorter limbs, shorter legs, but they'll be a little bit stockier. I feel like Chinese, Japanese, I've seen these guys and they tend to have very good, long torsos with very symmetrical abs. That tends to be one of their strong points. They tend to have high lat insertions, and they tend to be weak from the back from a bodybuilding standpoint. Moving on, I would say when I look at like Indian culture, at least from an IFBB standpoint on the circuit, these guys using, you tend to notice these guys have really nasty conditioning. A lot of these guys from Persia, Arabic nations, these guys bring in nasty, gritty conditioning. I don't know exactly what it is. It could just be, again, something in the blood. But not only do they come in peeled and dry to the bone more often than not, but these guys have upper back development that I just usually don't see. Maybe I see in someone with like a more melanin in their skin, but they have crazy upper backs with trap development. And they will tend to have smaller calves. I do notice they tend to have smaller calves. So as you can see, I'm kind of giving a little up and down, kind of giving some pros and cons of, I guess, each ethnic observation. You know, like when I look in the gym and I see Hispanic culture come to the gym, and I believe it's from diet, they tend to have a softer appearance, and you don't see a lot of Hispanics and Mexican dudes or women competing in the IFBB circuit. I don't know if it's some kind of genetic predisposition. They do tend to like be less shapely maybe than Italians, or just sometimes your average white dude, or sometimes your average black dude. You know, maybe their silhouette is not quite there, but they tend to be thicker and stockier dudes. You know, maybe thicker arms, good thick arms, good broad shoulders sometimes. But I believe just their lack of diet and all their white, you know, all the white flour actually leads to that predisposition that I see. Another thing I notice when I look at black dudes, and I think most people can see, like, they tend to have, like, I think good bicep insertions, good arms maybe. They tend to have fuller, rounder, thicker chests. You know, smaller waist. They ideally have that really good, let's say, athlectomorphic type of body. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, a little bit longer limbs, good V taper. They tend to have smaller calves, although that's, you know, there's always going to be variation. Also, another thing to note is dudes back in like the Netherlands and like Sweden or Russia, you know, these big, thick Neanderthal white dudes, these guys have gigantic shoulder width. And their calves sometimes match. These dudes in the Netherlands, like Wesley Vissers, that cat, excuse me, he is still has good calf insertion, so I can appreciate that. But just like white dudes in general, they tend to, you know, they can get into pretty good nasty conditioning as well. And I've seen a fair amount of white dudes with good abs, good even symmetrical abs, and their shoulders just capped as fuck shoulders. I don't know what it is, but these are just some of my observations that I've noted. And this video probably started just because I was thinking specifically about Koreans and their calves. Good grief, I don't know what it is, but you tend to look around and like start to check out those Koreans, dude. Really low calf insertions. It's impressive. It is very impressive. If I had to give any ethnic group, like, who's it gonna be on, like, back, who grabs it on the back, you know, like, as a whole, black dudes and Indian dudes just tend to take it from the back. This is just what I know. This is just my opinion, you know. But let me know what you guys think. Hit me up in the comments, and let me know if you guys have any other personal observations, because I'd love to hear it. Anyways, guys, have a good one. Stay up, bless up, and be good.